Hi everyone, this is Andrew Prima, a Ukrainian American living and reporting from the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv. I'm a founder of Ukraine Business News, UBN, reporting from the front lines of Ukrainian war with Russia. In today's podcast, day 26 of war in Ukraine. The situation and the nature of actions of the defense forces have not changed significantly during the last day. The armed forces of Ukraine and other units of the defense forces continue to strike at groups of enemies and trying to hold the captured frontiers. The Russian army is still trying to attack Ukraine. However, they didn't make any progress. Actually, if we compare the Russian army's performance 3 weeks ago and now, the Russian army's speed, power, and pressure has decreased at least 3 times. So far, our defenders have destroyed 50% of Russian tanks, fighter jets, and other military machinery and equipment. On top of that, 17 elite commanders have been eliminated during the last 3 weeks of Russian-Ukrainian war. Russian army has never had such losses in any wars. And these losses are even bigger than all the losses the Russian army had in the last 20 years of wars in Chechnya, of wars in Syria, and other 5 or 6 wars that Russia have been part of in the last 20 years. According to many experts, Russia have failed to take over the capital of Ukraine and most likely drop this idea because it's similar to committing suicide. The capital will always be defended as much as possible, and all the best forces concentrating in Kyiv, defending the heart of Ukraine. The Chernihiv and Sumy regions are currently under constant shelling on Russian rockets and receiving painful blows near Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, Kherson, and Luhansk regions. The defenders of Mariupol have played a significant role in destroying the enemy's plans and enhancing our defense. Today, Mariupol is saving Kyiv, Dnipro, and Odessa. As you know, Mariupol has been under the fire for the whole 3 weeks. You can go to Google, guys, and look at the pictures. These pictures are even worse than the horror movie pictures and videos. This is just genocide of Ukrainian nation. Residents of Kherson, Energodar, and other cities protesting unarmed against the Russian occupiers, demonstrating that the will of the Ukrainian people is unbreakable. A few of Kherson protesters actually were wounded today, and some of them were beaten up by Russian terrorists. Even though protesters are unarmed, they're still using weapons to stop the crowd. The occupiers' tasks of defeating groups of the armed forces of Ukraine, reaching administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, encircling Kyiv, and establishing control over the left bank part of Ukraine have not been fulfilled. However, the enemy partially managed to reach the goal in the Donetsk operational area and keep the land corridor in the southern part of Kherson, Zaporizhia, and Donetsk regions. So Donetsk region, or Donbas region, as you know, has been occupied. Part of the region has been occupied by Russian forces for the last 8 years. That's why they're making so much progress there, because there is a army base in place, and they just keep on shelling the cities from that region of Ukraine for the last 8 years. During the day, the enemy fired missiles and bombs and actively used airstrikes. It should be noted that the occupiers focused their attacks on critical civilian infrastructure and residential areas of settlements to intimidate the civilian population and reduce the economic potential of Ukraine. In the northern direction, the enemy continues to regroup and concentrate forces and means to resume offensive operations. But the enemy cannot organize high-quality logistical support of divisions and engineering equipment of the occupied positions. Constantly, Ukrainian army forces blew bridges to stop the invader from getting closer to the cities. Today was a very successful operation of Ukrainian army forces. In Kiev region, Ukrainian forces allowed Russians to build a military pontoon bridge toward Kiev and let half of the Russian battalion to cross the bridge. Russian forces didn't even realize it was a trap. 30 minutes later, Ukrainian used unmanned combat aerial vehicle Bayraktar to destroy the Russian pontoon and cut off the battalion in half. The Russian tanks and troops that were able to get over the river got destroyed entirely, and survived ones surrendered. Thanks to Ukrainian soldiers' skillful and professional actions, in the Donetsk and Luhansk directions, 7 enemy attacks were successfully repulsed. 12 tanks, 9 infantry fighting vehicles, and about 170 soldiers were destroyed. In addition, air defense unit shot down 1 enemy military jet, Su-34, and 1 occupied helicopter. The enemy continues to carry out airstrikes in Mariupol's civil infrastructure facilities, particularly at the Azovstal metallurgical plant. This metallurgical plant is over 100 years old. However, they almost completely destroyed it. So conduct assault operations on the western and eastern outskirts in the direction of the central part of the city is not successful. Suffers losses. Currently, Odessa is standing strong. Russia dropped 12 naval ships stationed and ready to deploy army forces. Due to bad weather conditions in the sea, deployment of Russian troops failed. However, they are constantly shelling the city with rockets. The government didn't report any deaths yet. However, today, Ukrainian army forces used artillery against the Russian Marines and got 1 ship on fire. We're waiting for the confirmation from the official sources. Kyiv. The enemy is constantly attacking Kyiv. Overnight, the firefighters were putting out a fire in the Podilsky district. This is the district of capital, which is only 1 kilometer or approximately 1 mile from the center of the Kyiv. As a result of shelling, a shopping mall has burned down, as 6 residential buildings were damaged. 3 of those are not longer livable. 8 people have died. The premises of 2 schools and 2 kindergartens were also affected. Luckily, there were no people inside. There was no death recorded. Because of the fires caused by the shelling, the air pollution levels in Kyiv and the region have significantly increased. Today, the TikTok short video led to bombings of the shopping mall in Kyiv. This news shocked the whole Ukrainian nation. The security service of Ukraine detained a blogger who published a video on the TikTok platform with the location of Ukrainian positions near one of the newly built shopping centers in Kyiv. As a result, the shopping center Retroville was destroyed after Russian forces shot powerful missiles into the buildings. Since the shelling of the aggressors in Kyiv, since the beginning of large-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, 65 civilians have been killed, including children. Today, a Russian bomber entered Polish airspace from the Ukrainian Volyn region. So, Russia is provoking another clash. The information is confirmed by the radar data. Our allies also recorded a flight. So, we all waiting for the Polish government to confirm this and announce this invasion. This incident occurred immediately after the statement of the Polish leadership about the possible sending of Polish peacekeepers to Ukraine to ensure the safety of the civilians. The battle of Ukrainians for their land finally makes the world realize what we have been saying for many months. We need your help. Ukraine is a very important country, not just for European Union only, but for the world, for the whole world. Ukraine's grain export feeds dozens of countries and about 15% of the world population. Russia's attack on Ukraine can lead to a global food crisis, which in turn will provoke another migration crisis in Europe. However, Odessa and Mykolaiv farmers already has started preparing for the land, preparing the land for the sowing seasons. So Ukrainian farmers don't stop, and seems like we will have a good harvest this year. So the West, European Union, United States, Canada help us a lot with opposing sanctions and providing the weapons. On March 20th, three large Belarusian banks disconnected from the international payment system SWIFT. These are Belagro-Prombank, Development Bank of Belarus, and Dobrobut Bank. So, Belarus is going to be sanctioned as well because they became a part of this aggression. Well, Russia is going nuts, as always. Despite being cut from the world, they are also making their lives more complicated. The High Court of Moscow recognized the American meta platforms as extremist organizations and banned in Russia social networks Facebook and Instagram. Why? Because they don't want their citizens to see the truth. They don't want their citizens to see what Russian army is doing to the Ukrainian nation. The 26th day of our resistance to full-scale aggression continues. The world's largest companies continue to abandon Russia, and sanctions are being imposed on Russians. As a result, LG Electronics stopped all the deliveries to Russia. Also, all four major foreign oil service companies have announced the cessation of the investments in Russia. The companies such as Weatherford International, Halliburton, Schlumberger, and Baker Hughes. Bosch Electronics has stopped the supply of spare parts and production in Russia. As a result, Yokohama Company was the last manufacturer of tires to close production in Russia. So, we also get a lot of help from hackers. Anonymous hackers have threatened companies that have not stopped working in Russia. The Hacker Association Anonymous has threatened all the companies who are still operating in Russia and give 48 hours to leave, announced the company on the Twitter. So, today, European Union announced the increased military aid to Ukraine, and this aid is going to amount to 1 billion euros. According to the Federal Minister of Foreign Affairs of Germany, Annalena Baerbock, the European Union plans to increase financial assistance to Ukraine for the purchase of weapons to 1 billion euros. Furthermore, the German government will ensure the rapid implementation of orders for weapons from German companies. The Kremlin no longer knows how to explain the things that are happening because of the last 3 weeks they have buried more soldiers in the regions of Ukraine than their official acknowledged losses. Lies cannot help them. Instead, they're scared of the truth. Today, for the first time since the beginning of the war, Russia announced 10,000 killed Russian soldiers in Ukraine and 16,000 wounded. They lie as always because these numbers are way bigger, way bigger. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to Ukrainian defenders for protecting our land. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy my podcast. Dear listeners, UBN is a team of 12 people, and despite the Russian invasion, we're still in Ukraine and continue delivering the news to you. The Ukraine Business News team would like to kindly and humbly to ask you to donate to our operation in order to allow us to continue our existence and deliver the news. You can go to our website www.ubn.news and click on the banner Support UBN Team. Thank you.